Well, we are finally to the end of the 20th century and actually the end of the millennium in this lecture as we go over the 1990s in America. We left off in the last election covering the presidency of George H.W. Bush, which actually went to 1992, kind of a reminder of that or an overview of that. Bush was successful in the Persian Gulf War, not so great with the economy, and in fact would kind of pay the price for a pledge to not raise taxes in the 88 election campaign, when in fact he did during his presidency. So the 1992 election actually was a three-person race. It was Bush, the Republican sitting president, versus Bill Clinton, a Democrat and former governor of Arkansas, and Ross Perot, a very strong third or minor party candidate from the Reform Party. The faltering economy and the no new taxes failure and the strong third-party candidate, Perot, will end up really hurting Bush in this election. Clinton runs as a moderate Democrat, young, hip, new face, kind of think, similar, not too dissimilar from Kennedy in 1960, for example. Perot is a successful entrepreneur, a billionaire, runs as kind of an economic expert that's going to fix the economy and fix the what he sees as corruption and dysfunction of politics at the time. And he, in the election, will end up taking more votes away from Bush, the potential Bush voter, than he will the Clinton voter. Clinton eventually wins the 92 election with what's called a plurality of votes. It means he had the most votes in the nation, but less than 50%. Senator Al Gore from Tennessee will become the new vice president. Perot actually had a pretty strong showing and ended up, again, being a factor that really kept the re-election bid of Bush away or out of his grasp. Bush then will lose, and unfortunately for him, he'll join Taft, Hoover, and Carter as the only one-term presidents during the 20th century. Now, looking at the major domestic events that are focused upon or highlighted in your quiz for this unit, the first thing is that Clinton kind of went into office as the intention to be a reform-like president, a transformational president to kind of shake things up. But a lot of his major ideas do not come to fruition, are not achieved because of an adversarial Congress, particularly 2 years into his presidency in 1994, when conservative Republicans win a big sweep in the election to really control Congress and elect a new Speaker of the House in Newt Gingrich from Georgia. He'll become, and to this day is still, a very recognizable face and speaker for conservative values and politics in the nation. He designs what he calls a contract with America with his fellow Republican conservatives in Congress that he vows to follow more Reagan-like agendas, contrary to what Clinton, coming more from a moderate progressive mindset, is trying to accomplish. So Clinton, early on in his presidency in the first term, tries and fails to implement a national health care system. It's during this push that we become very familiar with his wife and First Lady Hillary Clinton, who kind of heads up and promotes the campaign around the nation, but unsuccessfully so. It's not able to pass Congress. Clinton was, although, able to eventually pass a couple of his reforms that he wanted. Welfare reform, which he actually raised the standards to get welfare, and an anti-crime bill that were actually more moderate in his approach. He had some, more progressive liberal ideas, but had no chance of passing those with the conservative control of Congress. So the ones that he did get passed were more moderate, where there was some compromise on the conservative side. Also, your chapter talks about the Rehnquist Court. During this time period, William Rehnquist was a Supreme Court justice from the mid-1980s into the early 2000s, and he will lead the court on a moderate track that kind of resembles Clinton. Some wins for really both sides, progressive and conservative, during that time period. Well, here's the highlight of the Clinton presidency was definitely the economy, and that's an extremely important thing. I'd said before that, Americans can get excited about certain issues, but they most always tend to fall behind the economy and a candidate that they feel is going to promote the economy in the best way. Clinton is the president during an extremely prosperous time. He benefits from the dot-com revolution, which is the rise of the internet and the digital age, which brings a lot of prosperity to the nation, to the world. The U.S. kind of leads the whole dot-com revolution, digital revolution. And behind that, your chapter talks about one of the things you need to know for the quiz is the binary code, which basically is the at the heart of the revolution, because it enables efficient data to be shared, which increases productivity across the board, no matter what business that you're in. Also, a major accomplishment for Clinton was the NAFTA agreement. It stands for North America Free Trade Agreement. It's between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, the three North American nations. And it dismantled most of our trade barriers, made trade in between the three nations virtually like free trade. Balanced budgets. Clinton is credited for being a rare president who is able to balance our budget, meaning that he doesn't spend more than comes in for taxes during his presidency. And this is the first time this happens since the Great Depression. Alan Greenspan is an important figure for the Clinton economy. He becomes the chairman of the Federal Reserve during this time period. That's an important position. Who has, and we kind of talked about this in previous units, but they have a major say in setting interest rates and in controlling the money supply. And he presides over a very successful economy in the 90s. And that leads to really an easy re-election for Clinton in 1996. He ran against Republican Senator Bob Dole, a conservative, and the election kind of became a discussion for America of who was going to get credit for the booming economy. Was it the Democrat President Clinton, or was it the Republicans in Congress who should be credited most? And basically America answered that pretty emphatically on the side of the president, as Clinton is reelected in a landslide. On the foreign policy front, Clinton is, again, the president, shortly after the fall of communism. I think it would be Bush the Elder who, really technically was in office when it all came apart. But after the fall of communism, we start to see civil war and some really ugly events occur in Europe, particularly in the former communist nation of Yugoslavia, which had been controlled by the Soviets during the Cold War. When communism falls there, the nation really kind of falls upon cultural and ethnic lines. Former provinces there like Croatia, Serbia, and Kosovo engage in warfare against each other in an attempt to kind of gain their own slice of the former nation in terms of their culture and ethnicity, and rid the nation a lot of times of other ethnic groups, or the other of the three ethnic groups that might still be in that region. Probably the most infamous leader of this time period was Slobodan Milosevic, who led the Serbian military at the time, military effort, I should say. and he was accused of being a leading offender of ethnic cleansing, particularly by targeting Muslims in Kosovo and Bosnia-Herzegovina, another former region, or a region of the former Yugoslavia. So Clinton will get the U.S. kind of involved in this effort as ethnic cleansing becomes, part of the equation. We team up with the United Nations with a strong American presence to defend those that we see as oppressed in the Civil War, particularly in this case the Muslims. And eventually Milosevic is defeated. On another front, Clinton, like Carter, will lead a series of Middle East peace talks and a successful agreement. Remember, for Carter, it was Egypt and Israel. For Clinton, it's Israel and the Palestinians. Now, the Palestinians are the group of Arab Muslims who lived in the region where Israel is when Israel conquered it and took it over and made it a Jewish nation. And so the Palestinians are a minority, although a vast minority, within that nation under Israeli rule. And Palestinians have kind of fought the Israelis. The Israelis over time have given parts of the nation to the Palestinians, and they even have self-rule in some of those areas. But the Palestinians feel like all of Israel should be theirs, and that Israel is unrightfully there. So there's a lot of conflict and a lot of strife, terrorism, back and forth between the two. And Clinton leads Middle East talks between Yitzhak Rabin, the Israeli leader, and Yasser Arafat, the Palestinian leader, successfully. Clinton also benefits from an important ally in the Muslim Middle East in Jordan, and King Hussein, who will remain an important ally in the Middle East for America in the 1990s.